and evolved audionet.com, which was only audio at the beginning, to broadcast.com in 1998, which was audio and video, and became the largest multimedia site on the internet. Took it public in July of 1998. It had the largest first day jump in the history of the stock market at the time. And then a year later, we sold it to Yahoo for $5.7 billion.
Tap the subscribe button, then write subscribe in the comments. We'll comment on as many people as possible.
Well, see, I don't even care if it's going to be a big thing, right? Because it's all relative to the entrepreneur. We had a 19-year-old from Pittsburgh, Laney, who came on with this simple sugar scrub. And there was nothing outrageously special about it. I didn't see it becoming a $100 million business. I thought it could become a $2, $3, $5 million business that paid the bills for her. And that was good enough. And, 6 months after the show aired, she called me up. She goes, Mark, I've got $1 million in the bank. What am I going to do? I'm like, enjoy it, put aside money for your taxes, and go back to work. And so it doesn't have to be a huge business. It's just got to be one that makes the entrepreneur happy.
But then there's the valuation piece.
Right.
Do a lot of the entrepreneurs overvalue
of course.
business?
Yeah. I mean, that's the nature of it, right? I mean, and that's really where the biggest conflicts in Shark Tank happen. That's in the valuation. They think this is the best business ever. We had one lady, couple that came on, and they had this scraper for cats' tongues, right? It was
nice.
Bizarre. One of the most bizarre pitch ever.
I love it.
And they had this insane valuation, and it was on because it was corny and fun TV, not because it was a good business. And they'll go do very well without me.
So how do you determine the value of a business, whether it's on Shark Tank or just in general?
It's actually really easy, right? So if you take, just to use an example, a business that's valued at $1 million, and I want to buy 10% of that company for $100,000. Then in order for me to get my money back, they've got to be able to generate $100,000 in after-tax cash flow that they're able to distribute. Can they do it or can they not, right? And if it's $2 million valuation, whatever the valuation is, that's how much cash, after-tax cash, they have to generate to return that money to investors. Or the other option is, do I see this as business potentially having an exit, right? Do they have some unique technology, or do they have something specific about them that some other company would want to acquire? Then the cash flow isn't as I don't want to say important, but isn't going to guide the valuation.
And how do you know if a company is going to be acquired? So it's the technology, like the patents, but also the team?
It could be any of the above, right? It could be a super products company that I think is going to take off.
And how do you know if they can generate the money? What's the? You made it sound easy,
Yeah, I mean, can the person sell? And if not them, can I do it, or someone on my team do it for them?
So you're looking at the person.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's where Barbara Corcoran's the best. She can look at a person and hear them talk for 20 minutes and know, can that person do the job and do the work?
Can you tell if they're full of shit or not? Can you see through that?
Yeah, for sure. Just by asking questions. Mm-hmm. So if they are delusional at some level or misleading at another level, I'm gonna call them on it. So you get people trying to sell supplements that come on there and it's a cure for cancer or whatever it may be, or there's this latest fad that increases your core strength without doing any exercises, shit like that. I'm just going to I'm going to pound on them, right?
See, I still love that. I still love the trying.
Give them credit, right? Because they know all of America is going to see it, and they're deluded themselves to believe this story so strongly.
I mean, there's a delusional aspect to entrepreneurship, right? Like you just...
I see, that's a great question. Do you have to be ambitious and, set aside reality at some level to think that you can create a company that could be worth 10, 100, $1 billion, right? At some level, because you don't know. It's all uncertainty. But I think if you're delusional, that works against you. Because everything's grounded in reality. You've got to execute. You've got to produce. You can have a vision, right? And you can say, this is where I want to get to, and that's my mission, or this is my driving principle. But you still got to execute on the business plan, and that's where most people fail. Yeah,
you have to be kind of two-brained, I guess. You have to be able to dip into reality when you're thinking about like the specifics of the product, how to design things, how to like the first principles, the basics of how to build the thing, how much it's going to cost, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, because if you can't do the basics, you're not going to be able to do the bigger things. And at the same time, you've got to be able. One of the things that entrepreneurs do that I always try to remind any that I work with on is we all tend to lie to ourselves. Our product is bigger, faster, cheaper, this or that, as if that is a finite situation that's never going to change, right? And there's always somebody, I call them leapfrog businesses. There's whoever's competing against you, if you do A, B, or C, they're going to try to do C, D, and E, right? And you better be prepared for that to come, because otherwise they're out of business too. So you're never in a vacuum. You're always competing against sometimes an unlimited number of entrepreneurs that you don't even know exist who are trying to kick your ass.
And the tricky part of all this too is you might need to frequently pivot, especially in the beginning.
Hopefully not.
So you think like in the beginning, the product you have should be the thing that carries you a long time.
Yeah, because I mean, that's your riskiest point in time, right? And so if you've done your homework, which includes going out there and testing product market fit, you should have confidence that you're going to be able to sell it. Now, if you didn't do your homework and you go out there and you sell whatever it is, and you've raised money or whatever, just to pivot, you've already shown that you haven't been able to read the market. And so it's not that pivots can't work and always don't work. They can, but more often than not, they don't. You pivot for a reason. That's because you made a huge mistake.
Well, I also mean like the micro pivots, which is like iterative development of the thing.
That's not, just iterations. Yeah. Entrepreneurship, having any business is just continuous iteration, continuous. Your product, your sales pitch, your advertising, introducing new technology. How do you use AI or not use AI? Where do you use it? What person's the right person? There's just a million touch points, that you're always reevaluating in real time, that you have to be agile and adapt and change.
But especially in software, it feels like business model can evolve really quickly too. Like how are you going to make money on this?
With software for sure, because anything digital, because it can change in a millisecond.
Speaking of which, how did you make your first billion?
So my partner Todd Wagner and I would get together for lunches, and we were at California Pizza Kitchen in Preston Hollow in Dallas, and he was talking about how we could use this new thing called the internet. This is late 94, early 95, to be able to listen to Indiana University basketball games, because that's where we went to school. Mm-hmm. And he was like, look, when we would listen to games, we would have somebody in Bloomington, Indiana, have a speakerphone next to a radio, and then we would have a speakerphone in Dallas and, 6-pack or 12-pack of beer, and we sit around listening to the game because there was no other way to listen to it. So I was like, okay, my first company, Micro Solutions, I'd written software, done network integration, and so I was comfortable digging into it. And so I was like, okay, let's give it a try. So we started this company called AudioNet, and effectively became the first streaming content company on the internet. And we're like, okay, we're not sure how we're going to make this work, but we were able to make it work. And we started going to radio stations and TV stations and, music labels and everything, and evolved audionet.com, which was only audio at the beginning, to broadcast.com in 1998, which was audio and video, and became the largest multimedia site on the internet. Took it public in July of 1998. It had the largest first day jump in the history of the stock market at the time. And then a year later, we sold it to Yahoo for $5.7 billion in Yahoo stock. And I owned, right around 30% of the company, give or take. And so after taxes, that's what got me there.
Well, there's a lot of questions there. So the technical challenge of that, you're making it sound easy, but you wrote code, but still in the early days of the internet, how do you figure out how to create this kind of product of just audio at first and then video at first?
A lot of iterations, right? Like you talked about. We started in the second bedroom of my house, set up a server. I got an ISDN line, which was a 128K line, and downloaded Netscape server, and then started using different file formats that were progressive loading and allowing people to connect to the server and do a progressive download so that the audio, you can listen to the audio while it was downloading onto your PC.
Yeah, was it super choppy? So you were trying to figure out how to do it?
For sure. It would buffer. It wasn't good, but it was a start.
But still was good enough because it's the first kind of...
Yeah, because there was no other competition, right? There was nobody else doing it.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, I can get access to this, or this. And then there were some third-party software companies, Zing and Progressive Networks and others that took it a little bit further. So we partnered with them, and I started going to local radio stations where literally we would set up a server. Right next to it, I had a $49 radio, the highest FM radio that I could find. And we take the output of the audio signal from the radio with these two analog cables, plug it into the server, encode it, and make it available from audionet.com. Then I would go on UUNet bulletin boards, I would go on CompuServe, I would go on Prodigy, I would go on AOL, I'd go wherever I could find bodies. And I'd say, okay, we've got this radio station, KLIF in Dallas, it's got Dallas sports and Dallas news and politics. And if you're in an office or you're outside of Dallas, connect to audionet.com, and now you can listen to these things on demand. And that's how we started. And it started with one radio station, and then it was 5, then it was 10, then it was video content, then the laws were different then, so we could literally go out and buy CDs and host them and just let people listen to whatever music. And we went from, 10 users a day to 100 to 1,000 to hundreds of thousands to 1 million over those next 4 years.
The best way to succeed and make money online, and the laziest way of doing so, is using the HPP method.
Check the link in the description to start your journey on making money online.